actually from months and months of traffic from before, because people have been using our template for a long time. And so if we were to turn this thing off for the next 6 months, we're still going to get, likely even longer, we're still going to get traffic and customers.
Cool. That's awesome. My little visual cue right here, this is my slide, is that one of our common friends is not Eliason or Eliason. I don't know how you pronounce his last name, but he worked for Sumo Me, now does his own thing. And on his blog, he basically, I would call him, and Sujan, tell me if I'm wrong, like, don't you think he's more like an engineering type marketer, a little more on the nerd side than the average out there?
Yeah, he's more of a technical, like, back-end guy.
Yeah, so what he did is like more like a content upgrade, but this is also a tool. Like he put an entire blog post around like your runway calculator if you wanted to travel the world and still have enough money in the bank to do what you want to do, right? And so this was his content upgrade for one of his blog posts, and this specific one, which is just an Excel sheet, is getting basically a conversion rate around 40%. So that's just one example. Another one is kind of turning your blog post into a better visual, and I think this is also kind of getting more saturated as we go along and also a bit more outdated, but this is just an example from our own blog where we talked about 7 monstrous ways to improve your AdWords performance, and it was just a regular pick reel pop-up that we used for this, and prettied up the face of the PDF front to make it more exciting for people to download, and the screenshot below shows you all the people who are opting in to get that post. So yeah, and it's crazy. Like on offering just a PDF, I've seen people just download it. When I MVP'd it on my site, SujanPatel.com, I literally went to the print button on Chrome, and I printed it out and saved it as a PDF, the blog post. And that's what I let people download. Dude, that's so lazy. Yeah, the lazy way. And I proved it out, and then I went and kind of added to it. So just like you do with like product marketing, or startup marketing, you create an MVP. You can do that same thing with content marketing or any type of marketing. So the next example here is epic content, 10x content. I like to call it epic content because, frankly, it doesn't always have to be something that's 10 times better than what's out there. It just needs to be something that is significantly better, significantly different. Better and different are something that they don't mean the same thing. Different is a different take on it. You can have a humorous take on it. You can have an emotional take. You can call it out. You can make fun of it. Whatever you do, it just has to be a different angle or hook. Better literally needs to be better. And remember, I'm working on an article right now on small business grants. And if you look, there's a couple articles out there on small business grants. We're going to create something that doesn't have necessarily more information. It is just going to be organized better. It's going to be designed better. It's going to be downloadable. It's and branded well. And so better doesn't always actually have to mean better information. It could be better design. So here are 2 examples. So we did this at When I Work, same company, that yawning, boring topic. We created content, what I call content circles. So it's content that is still targeting my customer persona, but it is not necessarily close to our solution. It's just helpful information around what our customers' problems are, or essentially questions they have around their business, not our business. So team building, or kind of building morale with the organization is really important. Managing employees and things like that. Those are topics that are kind of relevant to the space or to our customers. So we created this team building guide. So we did this because there's a lot of search volume for the keyword team building games. I don't know why. We looked at what's out there. We saw that there's the latest content is just a few years old. It's kind of dry. I think it's like on Office Depot's website, and I'm just wondering, why does Office Depot, 1, still exist? 2, why are they making this content? So anyways, we just created something much, much better. And what we did is we continued to
add to it. So it's what I call it's live content. And so it didn't start off as a 10x article. It started off as a blog post, 2,000 words or so, and we just kept adding to it. And you can't see this now, but if you Google team building games, the header image is actually a GIF.
Like, you guys should Google it. Like, they should go Google it after this. I saw it. It's an amazing post.
I'll actually post it in here, so it's everyone has it. But essentially, this thing brings us 70, 80,000 visitors a month. And in the life of the article, it's brought in 1.2 million visitors. And the same thing goes with the other content on the right-hand side. It's the same concept. There is literally content that has been expanded over time, backed with keyword research. Again, designed well, simple, targeting our customer demographic, but it's not directly targeting them with our solution, or it has nothing to do with what we do. So check it out, and I urge you to create content like this. The big takeaway here is, do not create a lot of content. Create the right content, get it down, promote it well, get traffic to it, and then next step is to figure out how to do more of that. Too many companies jump into like content creation, and they don't have either enough resources or time, or they're creating so much content that they can't really promote it to their audience. Like, it's just like too much content to promote.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when we first talked and when I showed that little view of our Google Analytics dashboard, we were posting blog posts like 2 to 3 times a week, but nothing was moving the needle. And it was like for an entire like 8-month period. And then you were like, no, post less, but post better. And then focus heavily on the promotion side, which is then, we'll talk about later. But that was what we've then done. And we were paying guest bloggers to guest post on our site during that time when like it was just crickets, and we were paying like $300 to $500 a post from them. But then, we thought we can just like publish and pray, as they say, right? And so, yeah, what you're saying is crazy.
Yeah, and what's interesting and something really important that I think a lot of people forget is, look at all the top publishers, look at all the top websites out there, or companies in PPC, right, that are talking about PPC, like PPC Hero, Kissmetrics. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of companies out there. Just because they're doing something doesn't mean it's working, and 2, doesn't mean it will work for you. In fact, it's probably the opposite. If you try to write content that does well on Inc. and Forbes Entrepreneur, it's lightweight. Why it works? Because they have an audience of 10 million viewers a day. You know what I mean? So like, why it works for them is because they already have the audience. So don't try to pull off what you see completely working. Try to come up with your own approach and follow the principles. I think people rush into trying to copy what's out there. I think you should use information and then try to apply it for yourself, not necessarily copy it or assume it's going to work for you.
Yeah, true. Awesome.
Cool.
Take us through it.
Awesome. All right. So hopefully by now you're gonna realize that you can create less content and still live. Your company's not gonna fall apart. The world is not gonna end. And hopefully that frees up some of your time to promote content more, right? I spend most of my time promoting content. And I have an article that I'm still promoting from like a year and a half ago. Why? Because it's generating me revenue. And Salma Jaffrey has said, create less, promote more. And I stand by it, and it works. Because just because it's not new content, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not new content to new people. It's new content to new people if they're not familiar with you. So just remember that. Jonathan, can you go to the next slide? Awesome. So look, there's hundreds of ways to promote content. I'm going to post a link to literally an article I wrote on 100 ways to promote content. But I want to talk about 5 big ways. I think, Jonathan, you've probably leveraged some of these tactics as well, and you're going to go into some of these a little later. But
yeah,
these are the 5 things I've always found that work. Like there's a lot more you can do, but let's
let's not learn and try to figure it out. I think you should try to get one or two things working and always be testing one or two new things. But without the 1-2 things working, you don't really have a proven strategy to move forward. So first and foremost is to leverage influencers, right? You can quote them. Better yet, don't reach out and try to get a fresh quote. If they're an influencer and authority in the space, they probably already have said something interesting that will help you prove your point. First, again, you are borrowing or associating their authority and transferring it to your brand. This has been overdone with expert roundups, so stop with the expert roundups. It's too hard to comprehend that information, and it's way too saturated. I think it's probably past the end of life with that one, but it doesn't mean quotes from influencers is dead. What I try to do is I try to get at least 3 to 5 quotes, and I actually cite them from somewhere else, or if I'll look on Twitter and I'll actually embed a tweet on there so it looks a little better. But again, the goal here is to actually build a relationship with these influencers. Why? Because if they're familiar with your brand, they're gonna help pimp you out, or they're gonna open doors for you. And Johnathan, I'm sure you and I, would say the same thing. It's all about the relationships, the community, and that stuff, so that you don't actually have to promote content. When you hit that publish button, it just gets promoted. And that kind of brings me to kind of my next point, which is email your list. It's that simple. And if you don't have a good email list, make one, right? Johnathan already gave you the example of how well a PDF content upgrade works. Set it up. Use OptinMonster, PickReal, SumoMe, whatever you use. There's no excuse of why you can't get it done. Even budget. Most of these tools are free for at least the branded version or whatnot. And like I told you, use Chrome and use the print function in your computer to print to PDF if you really don't have the time or are unsure that that this is going to work. I like to use a welcome mat from SumoMe. It is in your face, very annoying. Again, it's often overused. But look, people are spending money on content. Like I spend a ton of money and time on content. So I'm going to freaking get in your face to subscribe to my email list. And I'm okay with it being a little too aggressive. Some people aren't, but it works pretty well. Out of the box, I've found it can produce anywhere between 0.5% opt-in rate to 2%. The simplest, best converting the text is subscribe to our weekly newsletter, or change the weekly to whatever interval you send it off at. And then the subheading would be to get the latest and greatest tips on X, Y, and Z, and replace X, Y, and Z with whatever the heck you do. So it works, right? So Neil Patel, I spoke to him kind of behind closed doors, and he's, one of his best things is like, I don't promote content. I just email my list, and that then his audience promotes his content. And so it's awesome that he's built up such a big list, an email list, that he doesn't have to do anything. It just kind of works. So that's when you're leveraging email right. The next thing is buying Facebook ads. I won't get too much into the weeds on this because I know Johnathan is going to be covering it shortly. But at the end of the day, contextual ad networks like Facebook, Outbrain, Zemanta, those are my 3 favorites, are great places to get the word out about your content. And yes, I am saying you have to spend some money. You have to spend spend some money on your content, and hopefully you can save money from the producing less content and essentially spend it here. Now, I'm not saying spend thousands of dollars. I spend at least $5 to $10 a day, so like 5 to 10 days from when I publish content, just to get the word out. What I usually do is remarket to I create a custom audience and of my email based off my email list, and just remarket to them. Quick hack is to use the mobile audience network for Facebook, and you will essentially get traffic from 5 to 20 cents a click. And to be honest, if you can't get traffic for cheap, and if your click-through rate sucks, well, that means your content, your headline sucks. So go back to the drawing board. Go back to step 1 of this, is come back with better headlines or topics. The next tactic here is mixed media, and I have to say, Johnathan, you guys at Client Boost do the best job here at mixed media. So I can talk all day about examples here, but just go to the Client Boost blog and check it out. They do a great job of mixing in infographics, images, video, GIFs, click to tweet, embedded tweets. I think I've seen you even embed Instagram images.
Yeah, the latest one. Yep.
Yeah. And I have a client that's in the recreational space. Can't say that word for some reason. Camping and outdoorsy stuff. They actually swapped out all of their images with Instagram images. So what I mean by this is like they have these SEO landing pages, these SEO pages that have and they're content rich, and it's this guide to Yosemite National Park, or like hiking, in Denver or whatever, right? It's all these beautiful places. And so what they did is they took out all the professional images and they swapped it out with actually Instagram images. Because why? Like, you look up the hashtag Yosemite, you're going to see some real people doing real activities. And so they just pinged the people that took the photo and said, hey, can I use this? And embedded it. And it works well because real people like to see other real people do stuff, right? Like, you're never going to get to have the same experience a professional photographer has at Yosemite. You will, however, see what other people see that's on Instagram. So that worked really, really well for them, and actually increased their conversion rates. And then the last thing is, you're going to have to do some email outreach, at least to start off with, until you build a community, kind of your email list gets to some volume. Easiest thing here is to look on BuzzSumo and share with people who have written or shared something similar in the past. So if you want to try to find people who have written something similar, look up the closest high-level keyword to your content. So like, let's say if I write something on content marketing tools, I'm literally going to Google content marketing tools, look at all the blogs that rank in the top 2 pages, and email the author of those blogs and say, hey, love your post, blah, blah, blah. Check out my article. Give me feedback. Don't ask them to share it. Don't ask them for anything except feedback. What do you think? Just saying hi. But make sure you're genuine and you're not just giving a canned approach, because remember, the goal here is to build a relationship, not just to get some shares or links or whatever. And the second thing is, do the same thing with BuzzSumo. Go to BuzzSumo if you're talking about content marketing tools. Search for content marketing tools. Find the top 2 or 3 articles, look at who shared that content, and email those guys or find their emails. Now, don't go after too big of followers and delete the people that are have too small of a Twitter following. I usually email 25 or 30 people, and that usually generates about 50% of those people will end up sharing it and actually starting a conversation. Sometimes we get on the phone. Johnathan, if we didn't meet the way we met, we probably would have met with me promoting content. So I'm not afraid to reach out and kind of build connections and ask for favors or whatnot. And if you do this right, you can move on to new promotion tactics, and you won't have to do as much promotion over time.
That's cool. Hey, it's funny because do you ever remember the first time you ever reached out to me? It wasn't when we actually first talked on the phone. You had featured me in your 100 Days of Growth ebook for the OLARC chat greeters or something like that. And I was like, yes, there's no way. And I was like, I downloaded it, did the Command F function, couldn't find my thing. I didn't share it for you. And then you followed up with me again, and I kind of felt guilty. And then I couldn't find it and I had to buy it. And so that's how I got it.
So you bought my book, I got sales. Dude, that strategy works so well. I mean, look, it's diminishing returns when you can't be annoying to the same people over and over again. So you just have 1 or 2 shots. But when I did that with you, I actually mentioned 500 people and tools and whatnot in the book. And that was intentional. It was by design. Yeah. And that was when we launched. For the first 4 or 5 weeks, I just emailed 30, 40 people at a time. And it got a ton of shares and engagement. And, some people are like, this book sucks. Here's why. And then I fixed some stuff, right? I made it better, or people were like, hey, I like this, but can you, this doesn't make sense. And I pretty much validated it and got in front of so many influencers.
That's amazing. It's funny. I recently talked with Alex Burkett over at Conversion Excel, and one of the things, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to right now, they get hit up and say, "Hey, I really like your content," and you kind of know what they're trying to get at. Like eventually, they want to come with that ask where they're like, "Hey, can you swap out this link for mine?" kind of thing. And what they found out is that if you are a company that's able to create original research, meaning you're a SaaS company, you have a lot of data points, whatever it may be. For us, being an agency, we have a lot of clients that we can do that with. And so the original research is very, very easy to just go straight to the jugular and ask them not only to just share it, but actually ask them to earn that backlink. And so that's something that, kind of feeds into the content machine over time. That's a whole different SEO topic, but that's what they found out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, quick thing. We had a question from Kate Harvey. She said, does the push notifications, have I tested that out, or has anyone tested it out, promoting new posts? Personally, I have. I think I've seen a lot of companies leverage this thing.
Yeah.
It's not meaningful numbers. Look, at the end of the day, it does work, but you got to get a lot of people to opt in to receiving push notifications. And I don't know if it's going to be a long-term thing because people are going to overdo it. But for now, it does work, but it's just not meaningful enough to move the needle. Like I did it. I got like a few hundred people to opt in. Whenever I released a new article and I pushed an update, it would get good click-through rate. But like I'm doing all this work to get like 30, 40 visitors. I could tweet that or send a Facebook update and get that in no time and not be annoying.
Yeah. I mean, we just recently started it. I hate SaaS tools that have like their branded version, so I always end up like paying for it because I think it looks cleaner. And so we mess around with Push Crew, which I think is one of the leading tools now. But the verdict's still out. It's still a little bit too early to figure that out. Cool. All right. Well, we have like 30 minutes left, so we gotta move through this. Sujan, here's another quote from you.
Yeah, don't write a single word until you've figured out 5 ways to promote it. Too many people come up with ideas that suck, to be honest, and you don't really know how to get the word out. I actually just got off a call with my content marketing team. I was like, guys, how the hell are you going to promote this idea? Like, it's a great blog post, but content marketing is not just blogging.
Right.
It's writing good content that you can get the word out and leverage to market. So spend 80% of your time to promote content, and I will pass it on to you, Johnathan.
All right, cool. And last on that point, I don't know if anybody else uses this before. I feel like content marketing is like you're basically building a TV commercial, but you have no distribution yet. Meaning you just created the piece of artwork or content or whatever it may be. And again, content in this situation we're talking about is a blog post, but there's so much more to do. And the equation part of like, well, I got to get eyeballs on it now, like so many people don't care about, right? And then so I treat it as a TV commercial every time we go through because I think it's an investment. And a lot of people say, hey, it's free. I'm not going to do PPC, but it's not. It's everything's an opportunity cost. So yeah, cool. I'm going to talk to you guys about a PPC catalyst that we use for ourselves, our clients who do a great job content marketing, where we can piggyback off of what they do and get results faster with content marketing because of PPC. So 2 of the things that we use, which what Sujan was saying as well, was Facebook ads, right? So you can boost your post, create the custom audiences, get people through, and then do other things which we're going to show later. But you can also use something called Gmail sponsored promotions. Gmail sponsored promotions were in beta through the AdWords platform for quite a while, and now recently is launched for everybody. But basically, if you have an email list that's a decent size and you are more in the B2C space, you can have your regular, basically, email list that you're going to send to, plus creating Gmail sponsored promotions from that customer list that you can have and kind of double hit them if you wanted to with that message. Now, some people say that's probably redundant, but funny enough, if people are dormant or they're not really being that aggressive with your click-throughs, or they're not really participating in your content and they kind of have fallen flat, then Gmail sponsored promotion is a great way to wake these people up again, because it's a more branded experience actually within Gmail. So if you're B2B, Unfortunately, you can't target these people because they don't have ad capabilities inside of Gmail, even if they're on the Google Apps, which we are. And so something to keep in mind that we'll talk about too. So here's an example of something that we did where we boosted one of our recent posts. And again, it's not that it's so much the social proof and the vanity metrics that matter, but it's important for you to get and also see how it does, right? Because like Sujan said, if you boost something or you do the mobile audience network, nobody clicks through, nobody cares. Well, it's not because of, it could be because of the targeting, obviously, but it could also be because of the content you have, and it's not that great. So everything that we do now, we basically went, instead of just posting for the sake of posting, we slowed it down, actually wrote less content, promoted more, and now we're actually going to double down on the quality and the quantity portion. And so a lot of our posts that you see right now are SEO focused, keyword focused topics that we want to rank for, right? And we want to make this more of a skyscraper post. So boosting a post, not only can you get regular likes, that helps your share numbers on your actual blog increase. You can also get comments, which you see some of these people saying on the right, which is pretty cool. And also a lot of shares, right? So the virality, I hate that word, but like it's not that great, especially for us. And so until we come out with a new approach to something that's already been talked about in a different light, which we kind of do with our infographics and the design aspect, right? Like that's big time an X factor. If you look at some of our competitors that suck crap at it, that's what we cared to focus on, and that's helped us out tremendously. So now, when you're actually doing this, to begin with, if you can and you have enough audience size of your own, you should start with what we call custom audiences on Facebook. So you can upload customer files, meaning Facebook will take the email addresses you have to match them with people who are logging into their Facebook account. Again, even if they've already opted in, it's a great way to actually hit them again, because these are already your fans. They already showed some hand in the air saying they like you, right? And so eventually, getting people to read your content is not going to make you money. So you have to be a little bit more selfish coming through and actually being able to guide them. And we'll show you that funnel of what we do for ourselves and for our clients. So you also have regular website traffic, meaning this is just retargeting. And so you can actually have the Facebook pixel on your site and say if people hit this URL or this URL. For example, you can create retargeting audiences on Facebook to go to the mobile newsfeed, regular newsfeed, even Instagram, and like Sujan said, the audience network. And then on top of that, you actually have something called lookalike audience. So if you have enough of an email list or enough of a retargeting audience, you can ask, and this is also called within AdWords called similar audiences, you can ask Facebook to create a lookalike audience for you that shares the same demographics and interests of your current people. So whether that be a customer list or an actual retargeting list of people who've been cookied by you, it will go out and find people that match that. And that could also be a way to get more people at the top of your funnel with your boosted posts that way. Oops. I went way too fast. Just a second. How do I go back here? There we go. Another thing to consider is within Google Analytics, you have an audience builder. And it's very important that you don't cookie everybody who goes to your site. So even if people randomly show up there, a lot of people bounce right away because they're not in the right place. That's a problem when you actually want to retarget to them, because when you go, depending on the network, your ad shows up on, and by ad I mean your boosted post. Well, with Facebook, it's not a clear CPC charge all the time. It can be it can be cost per engagement. And with Google, it can be CPM or CPC. And so you want to make sure that your size of your retargeting list is not necessarily just big for the sake of being big, but it actually is only cookied with people who have shown an intent. So within the audience builder, you can create multiple audiences. Say, hey, if they came from growthhackers.com or inbound.org or unbounce.com, I'm going to have a special message for these guys because I can see my referral traffic that a lot of people are coming from here. And they are going to get a specific message when I actually do remarketing ads through Google in the future. You can also set it to a certain second threshold. So basically, going through and saying, hey, if somebody spends at least 30 seconds or 60 seconds on my blog post, I want to cookie them and I want to do something and give them another offer in the future. So this is what Gmail ads look like when you have a selection. We use MailChimp. So, our customer registrants, or like our list basically is uploaded into Google. And that's how we kind of do that. And then what you can do is you can do it with anybody. It doesn't have to be MailChimp, obviously. And the screenshot in the middle kind of shows what happens when you upload that customer list, and if you want any expiration on it as well. By default, you can just do no expiration, again, until they unsubscribe from MailChimp. But you can kind of keep the data fresh that way by going back and forth. So, but what does all this matter? Just promotion for the sake of promotion does absolutely nothing for you, because you don't get money by the amount of social shares that you get. So it goes down into your funnel, and all of this great things and these little hearts that show people that they have an affinity for your brand, or that you're actually building the equity of your brand, it goes into something more meaningful. So when you actually create a funnel out of your content and use that as the bait to begin with, well, you have to decide, well, what is your end goal, your macro conversion, meaning making money? Like, what is it for us? It's getting a client on board where we help them with their PPC marketing and their landing page design and testing, for example. So if that is my wide funnel, meaning I'm going to attract somebody with a blog post, but eventually I want to actually get them to pay us and become our client, what are all the steps that I can have in between those 2 points that show that they're increasingly getting more and more interested in what we have to offer? So if I create a blog post and I create a new remarketing audience that says, if somebody reads this blog post for at least 60 seconds, I'm going to give them a guide that's related to that topic, or even something that can help that topic out. So if it was a guide on, or a blog post about PPC, the guide that I offer might be something about landing pages, right? If they download that guide, the next thing that I'm going to create for them is a webinar ad and ask them to join a webinar. Again, because they've shown the intent, right? After they actually do the webinar, I want to try to get them on a demo or a consultation around their PPC accounts and their landing pages to eventually make them so impressed and give them so much custom value that they want to be part of the Client Boost family over here and want to be working with us. So how does this look? Well, on the one side, you have cold traffic that might not have ever seen you before. This is where you're boosting a blog post, for example. And on the far right, you have people who are ready. They love you so much. You gave them so much value. They want to come through and actually buy. In between those 2 points, like I said before, you have a lot. It doesn't even have to just be a blog post. You have a lot of options that you can say and lay out and say, oh, what progressively can I offer people to show them that they give that step? And the most important thing is that if you don't have a big enough audience at the top, you won't have meaningful data going through, because it'll just be less and less, obviously, right? So this is what we do for ourselves. This is what we do for our clients that are able to produce content, which, again, we don't touch. We just use it for our own selfish purposes of getting credit for all the conversions eventually when they happen. So like I said earlier too, you don't want to give people something of the same sort. So again, if they read a blog post about PPC bidding, you don't want to give them a guide about PPC bidding. You don't want to do a webinar about PPC bidding. You want to change it up. So if you have a bait, the next logical thing is actually to give them the fishing rod, right? When you give them the fishing rod, you want to teach them how to fish to get the fish. When they get the fish, you want to teach them how to prepare that fish and cook it. And then once they're done cooking it, you want to give them the Febreze to, spray down their kitchen, basically. So as you can see, it progressively improves and gets closer and closer to your end goal. And you want to be able to test all these different types of lead magnets and conversion baits that might make sense for your audience. So I don't know if you saw this slide, Sujan, before I actually but what basically it means is that once you get a person to go from one step to the next, and meaning on the far right where I hold my dog's butt, that's what you want to get to. That is a money shot. And so you want to actually make sure that you exclude, and this is kind of obvious, but you want to exclude people as they go from audience to audience, right? So that means that as soon as I take an action, I'm not going to be part of their original blog post anymore. Same thing with the next step, maybe getting a guide and going on the webinar, and then eventually going to showing that I have all the information from you because you've opted into a guide, you've opted into a webinar, I now know you, I know what your company and things like that. So I can be more specific when I reach out to you, and you know me as well. So, but you can feel like you stay anonymous up until that point. So, anyways, back to you, Sujan.
That is some great stuff there, Johnathan. Totally agree with you on the retargeting and building up from giving a fish to teaching them to fish to cooking. Maybe you might want to give them a little breath mint at the end too.
That would have been better. That would have been better. Damn it. Like the whole thing just like collapsed now because like who needs Febreze in their mouth? Nobody does.
But anyways, I want to talk about repurposing content because you could actually do what Johnathan described with that
with blog posts. So Jonathan, you might go into the next slide. All right, so this is not the slide I'm talking about, but before I get into LinkedIn, you can repurpose your blog post into and expand them into a PDF, an ebook, and all that stuff. So don't forget that you can turn a blog post into PDFs and or ebooks, and adding a design and whatnot to it will help you get the content further along that, or use it for the funnel or later on in that funnel. But I like to maximize the use of my content because I'm producing content. I'm spending so much time creating content, and you know, essentially that's my main marketing strategy. So I try to maximize the use of it. The one place I love using it for, especially because I'm B2B in the marketing space, I have a couple SaaS businesses, agency, whatnot. I want my professional contacts to see it, all my LinkedIn connections. So LinkedIn publishing, great place to see it because great place to publish because it's where all your professional connections are. If you look on the left-hand side of the screenshot, it's all the top channels, meaning you want to try to get your content to fit in those channels. If it doesn't fit, it really only helps people. It only really works to your audience. It won't help you get a bigger audience, or it won't go that far, meaning you only get a few dozen page views. And so try to fit your content, or try to publish content or republish content on LinkedIn that fits within these categories. LinkedIn is better for lighter content. So if you have a really in-depth article like Johnathan, if your stuff, you probably want to split it up into 2-3 articles, and kind of maybe you take, like, if you have like 20 tips, or you know, you're going into 5 different concepts, take one concept and, you know, take one concept per post. That generally does better. But with LinkedIn, you do want to promote it. It's all about what you do in the first hour or two. You want to email your list if you can. You want to beg your friends for upvotes. That little thumbs up button really, really works well. You only need a handful of them. What ends up happening is that if you do well, you get selected to be in that category, and then LinkedIn will actually feature you. And if you can see here, I'm not sure if you can see the tiny numbers, but social media has 14 million followers. That's a lot of followers. It gets in front of 14 million people. And you know, your click-through rates, you're going to end up getting a few thousand visitors. And again, split your long form content up into 2-3 different articles. It's all about the article title here. Nothing else matters except your title. And you can have a call to action.
Wait, Sujan, what's like the second from the top, like that has 27 million. What kind of content should I write for that one?
I don't know. It's a different language.
Dang, okay, sorry.
I have no clue. I think it's all, like, I'm not sure, but I think this is the first time I saw it when I took the screenshot earlier today, because I updated the screenshot with more categories. They've added more languages. It might just be an error or whatnot, but
no, it was a horrible joke that wasn't even funny, so just keep going. Sorry.
No, I want to explain. I want to explain how I don't understand how to read other languages. No, I'm just kidding. Look, going back to it, add a call to action on the bottom. You can go as far as adding a call to action at the very top too. Just all depends on your comfort zone. But if you can go to the next slide.
Yeah.
I'll show some examples of it. Another great place is Medium. Look, I spend 10 minutes a week, and I just copy and paste. Like, I'm lazy sometimes, and I just copy and paste my content in once a week into Medium, and I hit publish. And you can see some of them got some pretty decent wins. You know, if it gets featured in the right category, it gets a few hundred views and whatnot. At the very bottom, if you can go to the next slide. At the very bottom, I add a little email opt-in. And there's not many tools that work well for LinkedIn and Medium, but I use this tool, Rabbit, R-A-B-B-U-T. The top one is what I use on Medium. The bottom one is LinkedIn. Oh, no, the other way around. But super awesome tool. Well, it does is you can just click on it, and then it pops up another, like it loads another page, or it pops up a welcome mat style opt-in. You can either offer your free ebook and all this stuff. Like, it works pretty well. I get around 400 or 500 email opt-ins from both LinkedIn and Medium. And like I said, every week I just go and copy and paste an article I've written before. And usually I try to wait a few months before I publish. And Kate, great question. If you have any issues, if you're wondering about duplicate content, you do not have problems with duplicate content. At the very bottom, I always include a link saying originally published here. I also rel canonicalize it. Medium has an easy way to do it. I will post a tweet or I will email somebody. I'll email the link of how to actually do it. I just don't recall the steps I use because it's just kind of canned into my template. With LinkedIn, they don't really index well, meaning they don't really actually get indexed by Google for that long, and so I'm not too concerned there about the duplicate content. Jonathan, next slide, please.
Yeah, and another person's asking too. That content that you're republishing on Medium and LinkedIn is just the same stuff that you already written somewhere else. It's not unique to Medium or LinkedIn, right?
No, yeah, it's the same stuff. LinkedIn. I might change the intro a bit and lead into it. I might change the ending if I'm going to take one article and turn it into 2 or 3, because obviously it doesn't make sense just to like abruptly end. But those are not the only places to republish. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Yeah.
Cool. These are like my favorite places to republish content. So and reuse content, right? So YouTube, you're not necessarily republishing your written content. You're rehashing into a completely different form. It's important to note that not all people like to read. I mean, I myself hate reading.
I don't know how to read. I just know how to read.
We need to teach you some hooked on phonics. But anyways, yeah, SlideShare is another great format. iTunes, and well, not necessarily iTunes, but podcast works super well. So what I mean by this is go try to get hooked, like use your best content and try to pitch yourself to get on, do a podcast interview to get on a podcast itself, or the other way around. If you did an excellent interview on a podcast, use that content, get somebody to transcribe it and edit it into a great post. Again, Medium and LinkedIn are great. Why all these places are awesome? Because they have millions of users. You're going and publishing where a crap ton of people are hanging out. And yes, a crap ton is the official quantitative number for millions of users, but it works, right? And just, don't forget about these places that have a big audience. And I even urge you, if you're having trouble promoting content and you don't have the time, screw publishing on your blog. The purpose is to get your content to build your brand. So publish on these other places, and it works the same. You don't own the traffic, but it's still your brand that gets seen. Next slide, please.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm just going to go through this because we have only a few more minutes. Just want to share this quick tip, and it's not easy to do this, but work towards this. This should be your end goal. Syndicating and distributing content to bigger, larger sites. Why this is awesome? Because your site, if you do content marketing perfectly well, you can get tens of thousands of visitors, maybe even hundreds of thousands of visitors, but there's already sites out there that already have millions and tens of millions, hundreds of millions out there. And so you don't get the quality, as much of the quality of traffic, but you get the reach. And it works well because your brand is out there in front of a lot more people. So on the left is an example of an article I wrote for entrepreneur.com, and it got syndicated to Fox News, Yahoo, a few other places. You're probably thinking, you still have to write for entrepreneur.com. Actually, you don't. I personally do, but I've seen smaller sites get syndicated onto entrepreneur.com, which will then get syndicated elsewhere. And so you don't actually have to write for these places. And we're going to talk about guest posts in a bit in the next few slides, but it's very important that you try to work your way up to these large sites and you leverage guest posts, because you don't necessarily only need to write content on your site. Business to Community, CNN Money, Huffington Post, Business Insider, all of these places syndicate content. When you're doing your promotion, reach out to some of these guys and ask them if they're reach out to the editors and ask them if they're interested in syndicating some of your content or fresh content. All you have to do is ask. Don't ask too early. Make sure you get a bunch of wins like Johnathan. I think Client Boost is ready to do some of that stuff now. I think you guys have enough of a brand. And you guys have been at it, 2 years now?
a year and a half?
A year and a half, yeah, a little over a year and a half.
Yeah, I usually find with guest post and distribution and syndication stuff, it takes anywhere between 12 and 18 months of consistent like hammering away at content the right way, right? Like not a lot of content, but good, and the promotion, and then you're ready, and people are receptive to hearing from you pitch about some stuff. Cool.
Awesome. I wrote this title myself, but I just laughed at it myself again because I think I'm really funny. But this is more like how much guest posting has done for us in the beginning of our business has been insane. And a lot of it has actually been attributed to Unbalanced and the relationship we have with them there. So I hope nobody from Unbalanced listening right now is getting offended with my inner workings and strategy of how it happened. So, oh, this is you. Did you put this in, Sujan?
I did, yeah. Hey, I just stole your thunder. Before you jump into it, I want to keep talking.
All right.
All right, so I promise this is my only slide on this topic, and Johnathan, you can take it from here. So, okay, here's a quick hack, guys. Go on Google, and I'm sure everybody here knows your keywords, right? Or you know what the heck industry you're in. Google the broadest version of that industry. I personally, my SaaS businesses are in content marketing and social media. So I Googled social media tools because it's a little bit more relevant. And if you look at this, kind of blurry screenshots here, but the point is Entrepreneur, VentureBeat, Marketing Profs, Content Marketing Institute, Copy Blogger, Forbes. Those should be my target websites to guest post on. Why? Because they already rank for content marketing, meaning if I write something there and it's really good, my chances of ranking on Google for something relevant is very, very high because they already have such high authority. On the right-hand side, Social Media Today, Entrepreneur, Social Media Examiner, Convince and Convert. In fact, Jeff Bullius, this is how I made my target hit list of where to guest post. A lot of people ask me, oh, you blog for Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., all these places. And I tell them, honestly, convinceandconvert.com gave me the most ROI. Content Marketing Institute gave me the best ROI. Like some of these smaller blogs are awesome because they've been at the content marketing game for years and years. And frankly, their organic reach is far greater than what I can do myself.
Yeah, that's right. So what I did, it was almost where the same audience is, but I was kind of thinking to myself, well, if I'm going to be writing about PPC and starting a PPC blog, and there's already so much competition out there, like what can I do differently? Like where are people hanging out that might be like an ancillary audience to PPC, but aren't on a blog that's about PPC? And so Unbalanced was like the perfect opportunity, because not only do they already have the audience, but if they're interested in landing pages, there's also a good chance that they're interested in the traffic that goes to those landing pages, and that's what I would be talking about, right? So some of the posts that I've done have basically been strategically thought of as saying, I don't have, for clientboost.com, a high enough domain authority to be able to rank for these focused keywords that I want this blog post ranked for. So let me piggyback off of some other companies that are already there, and maybe let me try to write around a topic that I want to be ranking for. So the second step was piggybacking off domain authority. At least for me, that's what's been working for us. And then write around the focused keywords that you want to rank for, but do it on somebody else's land, right? And so one of the examples is if you go to Google right now and you type in AdWords management, even though that's a very, very competitive term, cost per click wise, it is upwards of the $50 range, at least if you're trying to have an ad for that keyword. And this one, even though it's ranking at the bottom, it's still on page 1 for this and that great fashion look as well as part of it. Other one that I did, and this is again on the Unbalanced blog, another one that I did was AdWords ads. This is, if you type in AdWords ads, it should actually be the #1 thing showing up. And these are, again, very short tail keywords that are pretty interesting, right? So that's what I did. And from that, a lot of our own leads that we've been getting have been coming through all these guest post opportunities. And so it's not just about getting the backlink ever. Like it's not only about that. Sure, it helps. But on top of that, like it's also about, can you write stuff that's so great and good enough and different that you're actually helping and giving people value? Because that's what it comes down to. Again, there's no shortcuts in what we do. It's just, can you build up enough momentum and enough snowball effect to get things rolling and then doubling down on what works? Because on our side, for example, I was a sole marketer for the longest time. We just recently hired 2 full-time people who are going to help increase the quantity of our blog posts, because we know that works, right? So we're going to saturate and exhaust that before we go into other marketing channels that we want to have to be predictable. And that will eventually be PPC, again, which is very ironic because we're a PPC agency ourselves. So always think about leveling up. So when you're going through and you're actually going to go and guest post somewhere, take what you have from them, the results, the social shares, the comments, something like that, and use that to ask somebody else who's higher up the rank that you also want to guest post for. That's what I think, Sujan, you told me that you actually gave me your template of email that you have. And I think I use that. And you know, one of the blog posts on Unbalanced has like over 300 comments, right? So these publisher sites love that engagement. And if you can create that for their audience, they're excited and they're going to give you a chance. So guest blogging is like, we piggybacked off so many people until we got our own word out about ourselves, and then kind of slowed that down eventually. But it was so great for us, and I want to get back to it. I just haven't had the time. So,
hey, dude, before we get into questions,
yeah,
your last couple screenshots were a little blurry. I think the domains are blurred out. Can you show those domains?
Oh yeah, those. Yeah. I'll send you. No, just kidding.
Just kidding. That's all. That's all I had.
All right, cool. All right, so I see a few people coming in with some Q&A. And Sujan, it looks like when somebody's writing in, they write to us, but then when you write back, it looks like we're sending it to everybody. Let's see.
I think it sends it to all, I guess, my bad. Whoops.
Okay. No worries.
A lot of irrelevant comments that they don't know what the context is. Whoops.
But the answers are golden.
Yeah, they are. Hey, so somebody asked about content marketing for e-commerce.
Yeah.
It is very much like a very different beast. A lot of the same fundamentals will apply. Health and beauty. Here's the thing on the health and beauty. That industry is fairly saturated in terms of just content that's out there. So it's very important. It's not that it's e-commerce based that makes content marketing different in this case. It's that you're competing in a very saturated space. So you have to figure out what your unique angle is. What are you going to do that's different, right? So like in Johnathan's case, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of agencies out there. Like we're an agency, he's an agency. What he does is it's the lighter side of marketing. I feel like, Johnathan, you guys have your personality. I always see, if I see your blog post, I just imagine you holding your dog's butt, and I can't get it out of my face, mainly because you showed it like 100,000 times in this presentation. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, that's a good thing. Like so you have to figure out your unique voice and your what makes you different than what else is out there. And you also have to figure out if content marketing is the right thing for you in that case. If it's super saturated and you don't think you can get a foothold, it's not the best thing. In fact, for e-commerce, it's not the thing I would lead with. Why? Because you can gain more traction with paid search, even social advertising, Instagram and things like that, easier than you can with content, because decisions happen there. Where on the B2B side, it's almost the exact opposite. You may get someone's attention, but you will definitely not going to get a conversion.
It's like, and on that note, like it's a brand equity builder, right? So if it is something that your e-commerce and it might be, you know, basically not that expensive of products, it's tough to, like, you know, the intent might not even be to read anything about it unless, you know, you're targeting that specific keyword of something differently. But for us, like, you know, Sujan and I, because we are in the B2B space, like we care about brand. And the thing that I saw as far as an opportunity was everybody who's a PPC agency, because there's no barrier to entry. Like, again, think about it. We're not a sexy SaaS company. Like, we're old school farmer boy. Like, anybody can do what we do. We just want to be better at execution. But the opportunity we saw was we can be better at design. Like, design is such like an X factor. It's ridiculous. And again, some people will look at our site, look at our content, be like, this is design. Like, it's all relative and subjective. But what's not is the end results once you actually do change up your design and see what the results are from that. And so I think we had like 3 redesigns of our website and our brand in the first 18 months that we've been going at it. And most of this wasn't even like scientific. It was just like, I kind of like this better. You know, we did that, which is so anti-us. But we doubled down on that and cared a lot about it. And, you know, for the designers, if anybody's on here that knows, like, we have a Dribble account where we post our landing pages and stuff like that we're designing. So that was important for us. And that actually helps us attract many companies and clients that have great brands too. Funny enough, like, you know, like attracts like. So think about it too as like it's obviously a long-term game. It's a complete brand equity builder. And honestly, Sujan, you probably say this too, like, I would keep writing because I think I have two goals in life. I want to make a lot of money and I want to be famous. I'm very selfish at that. And I think content marketing is one of the only ways to scratch people's backs in advance to build that trust and equity over time.
Cool. Totally makes sense. I completely agree. Somebody just asked, my company is rolling out a B2B desktop application, some sort of monitoring solution, boring space, don't have much resources to create content. What do we do? You know, thoughts on maximizing with little content creation that they can create. What do you think? What would you do if you have not much time to create content, Johnathan?
I would select like a few focus keywords, maybe even just one, and say, hey, we want to do very well for this specific keyword. Let's create a mother effer of a post that is great, like you said, epic content. And then from there, spend what extra time you have to just promote it and see how far it goes. Once you see the traction on something like that, it becomes very clear for you that you might want to dedicate some resources to it in the future.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I would do if you don't have much time to create content, well, one, you have to you need some resources or spend some time on it. But I would ask your customers or potential customers, if you're about to launch, like literally get them on the blog and ask them what they want to read about. Like survey them, and don't survey them about your product or whatnot. Survey them about what they would be interested in reading about and get a few hundred answers or whatever, and then write about that. Like figure out what they want to read about and ask them. If you had more resources and more time, you could probably figure it out, but with minimal resources, do that. If you have budget but no resources, hire a writer. My favorite place to find a good blogger or writer is the Pro Blogger job board. Awesome place for bloggers. You can test them out and whatnot, and they're pretty good. So check that out.
Cool. I think that wraps it up. I think we're all good. So guys, another person asked if we're gonna get the slides. Yes, definitely we'll post those. We'll send the recording. I accidentally started the recording like maybe 5 minutes late, so the whole intro fun stuff is gone. I think a lot of people will be happy about that. But I'll send that to you guys as well, and we'll make sure that you can have it. Cool. All right. Awesome. Thank you guys, and we'll see you later.
Take care, everyone.